so it is a short story, The Oval Portrait by Edgar Allan Poe. So, who is going to read it for me? Read the introduction part first. Surabhi, you can start.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
The Oval Portrait, page number 20, chapter 3. The Oval Portrait is a short story by Edgar Allan Poe, published in 1843. The story begins with Pedro, the narrator's servants bringing the injured narrator to take shelter in an abandoned ghostly mansion. Among the many paintings and trophies that decorate one of the tower of the mansion, the narrator discovers a lifelike painting depicting the head and shoulder of a young girl. The narrator further reads a chilling account describing the disturbing circumstances surrounding the portrait.
Okay. So now this introduction is telling us all about the story. It is basically a summary of the story. So the story is beginning with Pedro. So who is Pedro? Pedro is the narrator's servant. The narrator is the person who is telling us the story. So Pedro, the narrator's servant, bringing the injured narrator to take shelter. So all right. Who is unmuted? Please mute yourself. Some noise is coming. So the narrator's servant bringing the injured narrator. So we come to know that the narrator is injured. All right. To take shelter in an abandoned ghostly mansion. So this is very important, that where they have gone to take shelter and why they have gone. They have gone to take shelter because the narrator is injured and it is the night time. And where have they gone? In an abandoned ghostly mansion. Abandoned is a place which has been deserted where nobody is living. So nobody has been living in this mansion for a long time now. Mansion is a palace, you can say. All right. Then ghostly. Do you know what is ghostly? Something related to ghosts. All right. Why it is being called ghostly? Because it has been deserted, abandoned for a long time. So it had a ghostly feel to it. Because it must have been dirty, there must have been a lot of insects, spiders, cobwebs. So in movies also you see when they want to show you a deserted mansion and to create a ghostly environment, they do all these things. So it is quite similar to that, that it has been abandoned. So it was looking very ghostly in the night. The mansion was looking ghostly. Among many paintings and trophies. So now there are a lot of paintings and trophies present in the mansion that decorate one of the towers of the mansion. So inside one of the towers of the mansion, there are a lot of paintings and trophies present. The narrator discovers a lifelike painting. So what is a lifelike painting? A painting that is very real. It looks as if it is not a painting, but it is some real person. So it was a lifelike painting depicting the head and shoulders of a young girl. So the painting is not complete. It is just the head and shoulders and face of a young girl had been depicted in that painting. The narrator further reads a chilling account describing the circumstances surrounding the portrait. So there must have been a book also present over there, which the narrator read, and that book provided a chilling account. Chilling account means when you read it, you get a bit of fear. All right, while reading it. So the narrator got a chilling read a chilling account about the details, how the portrait was created, how the portrait was made, and why the portrait looked so much real and lifelike. So this story is all about that. All right. Now I will show you a video related to the story. so that you can understand it in a better way.
Rather than permit me, in my desperately wounded condition, to pass a night in the open air, was one of those piles of commingled gloom and grandeur which have so long frowned
Okay, so
among the
now they are going into
Apennines,
the mansion in the
not
night
less in
to
fact than
spend
in the
their time.
fancy of Mrs. Radcliffe. To all appearance, it had been temporarily and very lately abandoned. We established ourselves in one of the smallest and least sumptuously furnished apartments. It laid in a remote turret of the building. Its
Turret means a tower. All right, in a small tower in the corner of the building. All right, so don't get
decorations were
confused.
rich, yet tattered and antique. Its walls were hung with tapestry and bedecked with manifold and multiform armorial trophies, together
So
with
they
an
are showing that there
unusually
were a
great
lot of
number
paintings
of
and
very
trophies present in the
spirited
room.
modern paintings in frames of rich gold arabesque. In these paintings, which depended from the walls not only in their main surfaces, but in the very many nooks which the bizarre architecture of the chateau rendered necessary. In these paintings, my insipid delirium, perhaps, had caused me to take deep interest, so that I bade Pedro to close the heavy shutters of the room, since it was already night, to light the tongues of all the tall candelabrum which stood by the head of my bed, and to throw open far and wide the fringed curtains of black velvet which enveloped the bed itself. I wished all this done that I might resign myself, if not to sleep, at least alternately to the contemplation of these pictures, and the perusal of a small volume which had been found upon the pillow, and which purported to criticize and describe them. Long, long I read, and devotedly I gazed. Rapidly and gloriously the hours flew by, and the deep midnight came. The position of the candelabrum displeased me, and outreaching my hand with difficulty, rather than disturb my slumbering valet, I placed it so as to throw its rays more fully upon the book. But the action produced an effect altogether unanticipated. The rays of the numerous candles, for there were many, now fell within a niche of the room which had hitherto been thrown into deep shade by one of the bedposts. I thus saw in vivid light a picture all unnoticed before. It was a portrait of a young girl just ripening into womanhood. I glanced at the painting hurriedly and then closed my eyes. Why I did this was not at first apparent, even to my own perception. But while my lids remained thus shut, I ran over in my mind my reason for so shutting them. It was an impulsive movement, to gain time for thought, to make sure that my vision had not deceived me, to calm and subdue my fancy for a more sober and more certain gaze. In a very few moments,
So today we are going to read up till there only. So I am showing you up till here. Now I think we will go back to the text and start reading the story. So now who is going to read ahead? Arzu, you can start.
Yes, sir. The chateau into which my
It is
valet
chateau.
Pedro.
Arzu, it is chateau.
Yes, sir. Okay, sir.
Pronunciation, I'm saying it is called chateau.
Okay, sir. Valet Pedro had brought me into my wounded condition to pass a night. Was a place where gloom blended with grandeur. To all the appearance, it had been temporarily and very lately abandoned. We established
Ourselves,
in
yes.
one of ourselves also, in one of the smallest and the least what is
Least sumptuous.
so what is the meaning of this sumptuous?
Sumptuous means something that is very expensive, costly in nature. All right, very rich. Yes.
A furnished apartment. It
Yes.
lay in a remote
Turret,
turret
yes.
of the building. Its decoration were rich yet tattered and antique.
Antique.
Its
Yes.
walls were hung with a tapestry and
Tapestry.
built
Yes.
with numerous types of trophies, together with an unusual great number of very modern paintings in rich golden
Ornate frames.
frames.
All right, stop there. So now the narrator is telling us that the chateau is a large country home, large palaces and mansions in France. They are called chateaus. All right. So the chateau into which my valet Pedro, valet is a male servant. All right. And the name of the servant is Pedro. So the chateau into which my valet Pedro had brought me in my wounded condition. So the narrator is wounded. To pass a night was a place where gloom blended with grandeur. So gloom is a place gloomy, which is very depressing, very sad. All right. Why it is being called gloomy? Because it has been abandoned and it was looking very ghostly, right? So that is why it is being called gloomy. And then it is being called that gloom blended with grandeur. And grandeur is something that is very grand, very rich, very noble. All right, because it was a chateau, and you can understand that it was a mansion, it was a big mansion, a palace. So naturally, it was very grand, right? Because palaces are usually very grand and lavish in style. So it was grand also, and because it has been deserted and abandoned for some time, so it was also looking ghostly and gloomy. So gloom and grandeur both were mixed at the same time. This is what the narrator is saying. To all appearance, it had been temporarily and very lately abandoned. So now it is being said that it was only temporarily abandoned. So it means that it had not been abandoned for a very long time, but only recently it was abandoned, very lately abandoned. Very lately abandoned shows that it was deserted just a little while ago. Not too much time had passed, maybe a few weeks or a few months had just passed, and it was not as if years have passed since it was abandoned. So it was a lately abandoned mansion, and it was temporarily abandoned. Why it was temporarily abandoned? Because there were a lot of items present in the mansion. So the narrator was getting the idea that whoever has abandoned it will return back. Otherwise, he would have taken his belongings also from there, right? So it was temporarily abandoned and it will be occupied again, and it was lately abandoned and not much time had passed after its abandonment. Then the narrator is saying, we established ourselves in one of the smallest and least sumptuously furnished apartment. So narrator established himself, the servant and the narrator, they established themselves in one of the smallest. So it was one of the smallest apartments, and least sumptuously furnished means there was not much furnished items present. So basically, there was just a sofa and a bed present in that room. Nothing else was present. So it was very little furnishment was there. It was the least sumptuously furnished apartment. It lay in a remote turret of the building. So turret is a small tower. So it was present in a corner, you can say. Remote means away, in a corner. So in one of the corner towers of the building, this one of the smallest apartments was present, in which the narrator and his servant established themselves in the night. Now the narrator is giving the details about that apartment. Its decorations were rich yet tattered. So now the narrator is telling that its decorations were very rich in nature, but they were tattered. Tattered means they were torn and ragged. All right. So they were in a very bad state. though they were very rich, but they were in a very bad state. Why they were in a bad state? Because the mansion had been abandoned and nobody was looking after it. So they were a bit torn and ragged. An antique. Antique is something that is very old, all right, ancient. So the decorations were of such a nature that they were very ancient. So the person who had decorated that room, he was fond of articles that were very antique. So there must have been very old trophies, right? And such types of paintings. Its walls were hung with tapestry. Tapestry means curtains. So long curtains were present and they hung from the walls and bedecked with numerous trophies. Bedecked means to be decorated. So the walls of the apartment, apart from the long curtains, they were decorated with numerous types of trophies. So trophies can be of two things can mean trophies. First of all, in a battle, if you defeat an enemy, then when you take the weapon of that enemy, that weapon can also be called a trophy. And if you win some competition, then also you get something as a memento that is also called a trophy. So trophies can be two things. So numerous types of trophies were present in that room, together with an unusually great number of very modern paintings. So a lot of modern paintings were also present in that room in rich golden ornate frames. So the paintings were present in rich golden ornate frames. So all the frames of the paintings were golden in color, and ornate means something that is very heavily decorated. So the frames of all those paintings were heavily decorated. So maybe there were a lot of carvings, engravings on the frames. Maybe a lot of gems were embedded in those frames. So the frames were very ornate and golden in color. And there were a lot of modern paintings along with the numerous number of trophies that decorated the room. All right. Now who is going to read? Arunima, you want to read? All right. Okay. Start.
Good morning, sir. These paintings fascinated me. Therefore, I begged Pedro to close the heavy shutters of the room. Since it was already night, I asked him to light the tall candles which stood by the head of the bed and to throw wide apart the curtains of black velvet around the bed itself. Wished all this to be done so that if I could not sleep, I could ponder on these paintings or read the big book which was placed on the pillow. I spent a long time reading the gazing around the room. Rapidly, gloriously, the hours flew by. The deep midnight came. The position of the candle stand displeased me, and outstretching my hand with difficulty, rather than disturbed by slumbering valet, I placed it so
Yes.
as to throw its light more fully upon the book.
Okay,
But
stop.
thank you, sir.
All right. So now the narrator is saying that these paintings fascinated me. Fascinated means he was captivated by these paintings. He was interested in these paintings. When he looked at these paintings, he got very interested in them. Therefore, I bade Pedro to close the heavy shutters of the room. So heavy shutters means the huge doors that were present in the room. So he instructed his servant to close the huge doors that were present in the room since it was already night. So since it was already night, so he instructed the doors to be closed. I asked him to light the tall candles which stood by the head of my bed. So now the narrator asked his servant to light all the candles that were present near the head of his bed and to throw wide open the curtains of black velvet. So the color of the curtains was black and the fabric was velvet around the bed itself. So the entire bed was covered with black curtains which were made of velvet. So he said that open all these curtains also and light the candles for me so that I can look at the paintings around the bed itself and wished all this to be done so that if I could not sleep. So at first he was trying to sleep, but he said that if I will not be able to sleep, then I could ponder on these paintings. Ponder means to look at something very carefully, all right, in detail. So I could ponder on these paintings and read the big book which was placed on the pillow. So there was a book placed on the pillow of the bed. So he thought that if I will not be able to sleep, then I will read the book that is placed on the pillow and I will look at these paintings. So that is why he asked his servant to light the candles and to remove the curtain. I spent a long time reading and gazing around the room. So now we come to know that he did not sleep, but instead he was reading the book for a long time, and gazing around means looking around the room. So he was looking around at all the paintings that were present in the room. Rapidly and gloriously, the hours flew by. Rapidly means quickly, and gloriously means wonderfully. So he was not bored. All right. So time was passing by very quickly for him because he was interested in both the books, the book that was present and the paintings that were present. So he was engrossed so much in the books, in the book and the paintings, that the time was passing by wonderfully and quickly for him. And soon the midnight came. So it was already midnight. Now he's saying that the position of the candle stand displeased me. So the position of the candle stand from where the candles were lit, they were displeasing him a bit. Why? And outreaching my hand with difficulty rather than disturb my slumbering valet. So slumbering means someone who is sleeping. So instead of disturbing his sleeping servant, he thought that I should outreach my hand and I should adjust the position of the candles myself. All right. So he was a bit kind man that he didn't want to disturb his sleeping servant. So he thought that I should adjust the candle stand myself instead of disturbing my sleeping servant. All right. So he adjusted the candle stand and placed it so as to throw its light more fully upon the book. So now we come to know why he was displeased with the position of the candle stand, because he was not getting enough light to read the book. So now he adjusted the candle stand so as to throw its light more fully upon the book so that he could read the book easily. All right. Now who is going to read further? Akash wants to read. All right. Yes, Akash.
Good morning, teachers.
Good morning.
But the slightly changed position of the candle showed something unexpected. The rays of the light now fell within a corner of the room that had remained in darkness. I though saw a vivid light, a picture of all unnoticed before. It was the portrait of a young girl just ripening into a womanhood.
Into womanhood, yes.
Into womanhood. I glanced at the painting hurriedly and then closed my eyes. I did not know why I did this. I thought of a reason for though shutting my eyes. It was a move to make sure that my vision had not failed me, to be sure of what I could see as I gazed. In a few moments, I looked
Fixedly
fixedly
at
at
the painting. All right, stop.
the painting. Thank you, sir.
Welcome. So now, but the slightly changed position of the candles. So now the position of the candles have been changed by the narrator. And what happened because of it? The slightly changed position of the candles showed something unexpected. So now he saw something that was very unexpected for him. The rays of light now fell within a corner of the room that had remained in darkness. So up till now, one of the corners of the room was in darkness. But now when he changed the position of the candle stand, so that part of the room also got light. So it came into light. That is how he saw something unexpected over there. I thus saw in vivid light. Vivid is something that is very clear. All right. So in clear light, he saw a picture all unnoticed before. Unnoticed means that it was not noticed before. And why it was not noticed? Because it was very dark in that corner of the room up till now. But when he changed the position of the candle stand, that portion also got a lot of light. So now he could notice a picture that was unnoticed up till now, and that picture was very unexpected for him. What was special about this picture? Let's see. It was the portrait of a young girl just ripening into womanhood. So we get to know that it was a portrait of a young girl who was in her teen years and she was growing into a woman. So from being a girl, she was becoming a woman. All right, so she was in her adolescent age. I glanced at the painting hurriedly and then closed my eyes. So now the narrator is saying that he quickly glanced at the painting that was present and then he closed his eyes. So now this thing is very important, that why he immediately closed his eyes after looking at the painting. I did not know why I did this. So the narrator himself is confused that why after looking at the painting, I immediately closed my eyes. I did not know about this. I thought of a reason for thus shutting my eyes. So now he is saying that I started thinking of a reason why I shut my eyes after looking at the painting. It was a move to make sure that my vision had not failed me. So the narrator concluded he thought that he shut his eyes in order to make sure that whatever he saw, my vision, so whatever he saw was correct and his vision had not failed him, means that whether he was seeing a dream or it was just a delusion. So he wanted to make sure, he wanted to confirm that whatever he has seen was real. So he closed his eyes and opened it again in order to make sure that he was not dreaming and whatever he saw was actually real and it was actually present in front of him. To be sure of what I could see as I gazed. So he was making himself sure that he had not dreamt and did not have a delusion, but instead the thing was real and it was present in front of him. So he closed his eyes and opened it again to make sure. In a few moments, I looked fixedly at the painting. So after some time, when he was sure that yes, it was real and it was not his dream or his delusion, then he started looking fixedly at the painting. So he was totally captivated by the painting and he kept on continuously looking at the painting. All right. So now we will get further details about the painting, that what was the painting all about. Now he's going to read. All right, Akshay.
Good morning, teacher.
Good morning.
I could not doubt that I could now see clearly, for the first flashing of the candles upon the canvas had seemed to remove the dreamy mood that was slowly stealing over my senses. It started me at once into watching,
Startled,
waiting.
not started, but startled.
The portrait, I have already said, was that of a young girl. It was a mere head and shoulders.
It was a mere
Done
head
in
and
what?
shoulders, not mere, it's mere. Yes.
It was the mere head and shoulders, done in what is technically termed as casual manner. The arms, the bosom,
Bosom,
and
it's
even
bosom.
the bosom, and even the ends of the radiant hair merged well with the deep shadow which formed the background of the painting. The frame was oval, richly lighted and ornate.
Gilded, it's gilded, not glided.
Sorry, sir, gilded and ornate. As a thing of art, nothing could be more admirable than the painting itself.
Okay, stop.
But it could
Okay,
have.
stop. So this is the detail of the
Thank you, sir.
painting. We are going to stop here. Tomorrow we will proceed from here. So now, what the narrator is saying that I could not doubt what I could now see clearly. So at first the narrator was doubting that whether what he has seen was true or not. But now he is saying that now he was confirmed and clear that what he has seen was true and it was in front of his eyes. So he could not doubt, which he could now see clearly. For the first flashing of the candle. So when the candle first flashed on that picture, he was confused that whether he was dreaming, but now he was clear about it. Upon the canvas had seemed to remove the dreamy mood. So when the first light fell on that painting, he was a bit in a dreamy mood, means he was a bit lazy, relaxed, and he was feeling sleepy as it was already midnight, you know. So he was feeling a bit sleepy by then. But after looking at that painting, he was startled. The painting startled him, means it shocked him. All right. So his dreamy mood was slowly stealing over his senses. So the narrator was slowly going into sleep. The dreamy mood was taking over him. Stealing means it was taking over his senses and he was falling sleepy. But as soon as he saw the painting startled him, means it shocked him. It startled me at once into waking. So the painting shocked and awaked him again. Now he's telling about all the details of the painting. The portrait, I have already said, was that of a young girl. So he's saying that, as I have already told you, it was the portrait of a young girl. It was just mere head and shoulders. Mere means just head and shoulders. So, wait a minute.